All right, everybody, welcome to this storm-centric live office hour. I am starting it a little bit early because this storm is arriving a little bit earlier in the LA area than originally expected. Although otherwise it's been very well predicted with plus minus a couple of hours. I originally had this session scheduled for an hour later because that was when the cold front was anticipated to move through LA, but it's doing so a little bit sooner. So uh, decided that I wanted to walk folks through the most intense part of the storm because it is going to be quite a doozy. I know a lot of folks have already gotten a lot of rain in the LA area today, and it's going to get a lot worse over the next hour. In fact, there is now a high-end flash flood warning in effect for the Palisades burn area now for rain that is likely inbound that has yet to fall. Later, and about within this hour, I would expect that probably to extend over to the Eaton fire footprint and probably other fire footprints in September as well. This rain, unfortunately, looks very, very intense, and there are some reports of about an inch per hour rainfall rates occurring, which is probably going to be enough for major debris flows and flash flooding in the recent fire zones and possibly some significant street and urban flooding elsewhere. So I'll get into that in a moment. Just want to acknowledge that the storm did go through Northern California earlier today, and there have been quite a few shallow landslides, rock slides, mudslides, debris flows, in some cases, and a lot of street and urban flooding. Again, nothing extreme or catastrophic, but pretty widespread, low to sort of medium end flooding up in the Bay Area, Santa Cruz Mountains, Central Coast. But the really dangerous, life-threatening stuff is what's about to move through LA County, which is why I wanted to have this session right now. That's where there is potential for flooding, debris flows that could cause a lot of damage and threaten lives, and so that's what we're going to talk about primarily today. I will also go to Northern California and Central California. There is other interesting stuff to talk about now up there as well, but I will focus mainly on Southern California and especially LA County because this storm is about to really ramp up. Yeah, again, it has not peaked yet and you're about to get hit quite hard. So I'm going to share my screen a lot today and get started now with that process. So the first thing I want to show is the broader satellite view, the big picture, if you will. And I'll draw on it just a little bit right now, just for illustrative purposes. Obviously, the low pressure system is centered here. You can kind of see how the gyre is spinning like this. So there's the cyclonic circulation. Again, the center of low pressure is way up here. The cold front, though, is about here. So you can see it's about to move through LA. It moved to the Bay Area this morning, the Central Coast this afternoon, and now it's arriving closer to LA. There's sunny gaps behind the front, but there's some pretty strong thunderstorms up in Central California, and there's even a slight chance of a brief tornadic spin-up in the Central Valley in the next hour or two. So not totally done up north either, and those heavy showers up in Northern California are still causing localized flood issues. But again, the big concern is going to be down here this evening. So I will literally, in this case, zoom in to Southern California and give the slightly broader view. There's a couple of interesting things going on here. Again, here is the county of LA in this region right here. Here is the cold front. It's about to move through. You can see these bubbly clouds that are becoming a little bit more organized and taller as the animation goes on. That's these intense convective showers and thunderstorms. But take a look at this nice sort of herringbone kind of pattern. Notice how it's moving almost perpendicular to the direction. So the winds in the atmospheric river and the cold front are going like this. But then this cloud is coming in like this, almost at a 90-degree angle. How is that possible? Well, this cloud feature, this linear feature, is an upper level feature. It's cirrus. So ice crystal clouds up in the upper troposphere. What's interesting, and I'm actually going to zoom back out for a moment just so you can see the slightly better perspective on this. And again, drawing attention again to this cloud feature, so I'm going to draw. So there's this feature here. Notice how it's going like this. And then, so this essentially is coming from the jet streak. Not the jet stream, although this is also the jet stream, but it's from a particularly pronounced region of jet level winds. So you can actually see where the jet streak is. A streak is an area of accelerated winds relative to either side of it. So it doesn't tell us about the absolute magnitude of the jet stream winds. Instead, it tells us about the relative intensity, relative. So essentially, it says the winds in the jet stream are higher here than they are here and than they are here. How can we tell that visually? Well, take a look. I'm going to remove this again. Take a look right here that we don't really see that herringbone feature. We start to see it appear right here, but it really intensifies here. This shows us that there's acceleration of the jet stream into that jet streak. Jet streak. I know some folks are asking. S-T-R-E-A-K. And that streak is what's enhancing this cold front. So this cold front wasn't super impressive necessarily and when it moved over Point Conception earlier, but it's really gotten juiced up in the past couple hours. And this jet streak at rounding the base of the trough being like this, the jet streak going like this, rounding the base down here, right as the cold front intersects LA, is going to really ramp it up. And this is why there's such great concern over flash flood and debris flow risk in LA County tonight. It's going to be a nightmare commute. If you're stuck in traffic, you probably won't be going anywhere soon. But again, the big concern right now is the risk of flash flooding. So I'm going to bring up the radar screen next because there actually is an urgent threat to life at the moment in parts of southern, whoops, that's the wrong location. That defaulted to Colorado. Just need to bring this back with the radars in California here, alphabetical order. I think I was at the LA radar, so that's where we're going to go back to. Yes, indeed. This is what I want. That's what I want. Okay. Okay. So, first of all, that's what I want. Look at that big giant blob of rain. I'm going to reanimate this. No zombie rain, I guess. Okay. This is the current radar view. By the way, it does not mean it's not raining up in this north of this line. This is just because the radar site is here and the mountains are blocking the rain. So just ignore this region up here. But right now what we see is, again, there's a bit of a break, or there was a bit of a break at least, over central LA County, downtown LA. The heavy rain is now moving back in. So Westwood, Santa Monica, the 405 corridor is now very wet, heavy rain moving back in, but actually the heaviest rain is still yet to come. Look at this band. This is the feature that is probably going to produce flash flooding and debris flows. So focus your attention on the area in between this band. It's currently going through Thousand Oaks. It just went through the Simi Valley. It's about to go through Santa Clarita. It's also about to go, and this is the problem, and this is why the Weather Service just issued these high-end emergency level flash flood warnings for the Palisades burn area. Everything in green here. That includes Topanga, Malibu, all the way into portions even of Brentwood and Pacific Palisades. So essentially the entire fire zone, including some areas from the Franklin fire earlier this winter in Malibu, where there's been more repopulation. So in Malibu, there are actually people who have returned and are living currently in the debris flow flash flood risk. So significant concern in and near Malibu, Topanga Canyon, and then all the way really to the edge of the drainages on the far western side of Santa Monica, Brentwood, and Mandeville Canyon area with this. So again, just because you haven't seen a debris flow or a flood yet does not mean you will, because this feature here is the one that's going to cause the problems. If there's a major debris flow or flash flood, it's going to come as this continues to move to the east. Now, over in the Eaton fire footprint, so that's over here in the mountains above Pasadena and including Altadena, there's no flash flood warning yet. So it's been raining steadily to heavily all day. But again, look at what's coming. So there's this first wave of heavier rain, and then this band that, if it holds together, of genuinely torrential downpours of 1 inch per hour rainfall rates or higher. As this moves towards the Eaton fire footprint, that is going to cause potentially major problems. And then as all of this moves east, as we go into the eastern portion of LA County and western San Bernardino County, we have a number of fires from September of 2024. So the line fire, the bridge fire, places like Wrightwood, Running Springs, all of these places could be under the gun when this extremely heavy rainfall feature makes it east. This has already been a day of moderate to heavy rainfall here, so the soils are saturated, but this very intense burst, this torrential burst, is what might cause some major problems. The other thing I want to mention here is there is the potential for some quite strong winds associated with this as well. And in fact, the Weather Service has actually issued a special marine warning for this area offshore for essentially 55-mile-an-hour wind gusts and a potential waterspout. Why is that? Well, we can pretty much see why. Take a look at this feature here. This is known as essentially a weak bow echo. So a bow echo is often indicative of a thunderstorm producing strong winds. So there's not a ton of lightning right now. That could change at any moment. And this feature here, it looks like there might have been a brief waterspout spin up right about here a little while ago. That's gone now. The rotation is broad, but this whole blob with the green and red here is rotating. So this is essentially, you have winds blowing in one direction here and blowing in another direction, the opposite direction here. So this is broad rotation. This is indicative of a strong storm, not necessarily of a tornado or a waterspout right now, but of a generally strong convective piece. But take a look at this little cell that's a little bit behind now, that's re-entering the warning area. There is actually some stronger echoes and actually a little bit of a couplet. So you notice the red here and the green here. This one might be trying to spin up into a new waterspout. So this is a very convectively active band, and you can see that essentially this is probably the cold front right along here. You can see the very heavy to torrential rainfall and also a pretty significant wind shift. Winds moving like this on this side of the front and then moving like this behind the front. So again, this is now moving through Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village, just moved through Santa Clarita, about to move into San Fernando Valley, and just about to get to the 405 corridor and cause problems. So the heavy rain is really filling in right now across Southern California. So I do want to take a quick radar tour for a moment, then I'm going to take a look at the question. San Joaquin Valley, this is where the severe thunderstorms, or nearly severe thunderstorms, have been recently. There was, again, the potential for a brief tornadic spin-up or two. I don't see any overt rotation right now, but this is a pretty nasty-looking thunderstorm about to move through the area near Mariposa, and apparently produced a flash flood earlier on the eastern side of the valley, Highway 99, or maybe just a bit north and east of Highway 99, north of Merced. So there's active cells moving through the valley that are pretty strong. If I go up to Sacramento, it's a little bit less dramatic, but there's still scattered heavy showers, maybe some isolated thunderstorms. If I go down to the Bay Area, I think we're going to get a similar picture here. Indeed, so heavy showers, scattered showers does not mean light rain. These are quite heavy embedded downpours over Marin, San Rafael, Santa Cruz Mountains, but most of the sustained heavy rain is over here, so I really am going to be focusing on Southern California. Here's the view from Vandenberg. That's now too far north, so I'm going to go farther south. I'm going to look at a couple different Southern California radars right now. We've got Santa Ana Mountains. Will tell us a little bit something different than the radar in LA. This is farther away. Santa Ana Mountains, of course, in Orange County down here. So the rain is actually worse than it looks here, but sometimes it gives a more complete radar picture because there aren't mountains between Orange County and LA. They're on the other direction. But I'm not sure this is telling us anything that we're not getting from the LA radar, which is closer. So I'm going to go back to that right now. Yeah, and I'm going to, for now, make it a single panel full screen on the rain, because that's really the big problem here. So yeah, this may be known as a, I'm not even really sure if this is a narrow cold frontal rain band or an NCFR. It might be, it really also might just be a more traditional strong cold front, a well-defined cold front, which is not common for California. I mean, these are really, really strong reflectivity echoes. I mean, I guess this is near I-5 405 interchange. truly torrential rainfall right now, probably significant urban and street flooding up here as this moves through. The freeway interchange up there is about to be a disaster. Might even be some small hail, actually, mixed in with that, because that's really heavy precipitation. And unfortunately, it's not stalling, but it also isn't moving super quickly. So, especially this part of the feature, you can kind of see how it's been for this entire loop kind of in the same general area. So, again, the flash flood warning that's in effect here is for rain that already fell, and we haven't even gotten to the heaviest part of the storm yet. So, this is a big concern, and then we're about to get concerned over on the Eaton Fire as well. So, I'm going to leave. Let's see, what am I going to do? I'm actually going to leave this radar view up on screen live so while I switch over to, so just bear with me for a moment. It's going to show the wrong thing for a moment. I need to, there we go. I need to, okay. So you're going to see this full screen, well actually, just need to maximize that for your viewing. Okay, so you will be seeing radar full screen because that's probably the most important things for people to see right now. And then I'm going to go over and take a look at the comments here. All right, so I am looking at some other information right now as these come up on screen. So I'm viewing a couple of cameras from around the. If there's anything interesting, I will bring them up. But I will then. I think this one's about to get interesting, so I'll save that for a little bit later. Okay, and then we've got that there. Okay, I'm going to take a look at questions right now. Yeah, comments said the intense part of the storm went through the Bay Area late last night or early this morning. That is certainly true. So again, I had to choose, just due to time constraints, one location to be present for live, and I did LA Basin in this case because, of course, huge population center in California, and this is genuinely where I'm most concerned about dangerous weather as opposed to merely disruptive weather. This line of rain really is looking like kind of a pretty serious situation for the recent wildfire burn areas, and it's coming through the LA area during peak evening commute rush hour time. So this really is going to cause a lot of problems. I sincerely hope the worst thing that happens is there's some street flooding and terrible traffic jams, but given the magnitude of what we're seeing, I'm pretty concerned that this could turn into a very serious debris flow in the burn area, in any number of recent burn area situation, and maybe even some significant flash flooding elsewhere. This is a very intense line of precipitation that's currently moving through the western San Fernando Valley and intensifying. I mean, look at that line. That is not really what we wanted to see right now, but there it is. All right, so I'm just continuing to look at the comments. You're getting the live radar view. I'll continue commenting on it, and then I will have other live camera views to show later, or momentarily perhaps. Just trying to catch up on comments here. Comment about there's already some street flooding in Newbury Park. Getting slammed in Simi Valley, that is consistent. Camarillo Airport had a wind gust of 47 knots. That's a little over 50 miles an hour, I believe. That's certainly nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, Frank points out that Mandeville Canyon only burned on the western slope of the upper canyon, but I still think that that's, unfortunately, given how intense this rain is, that might still be enough for some debris flows into the canyon itself. The bigger risk is probably on the coast side or on the canyons that drain directly into the Pacific, but still a concern up there. I'm pretty concerned about the Altadena-Pasadena area. Now, there are debris flow basins because this is a known high-risk debris flow area that are designed to catch debris flows before they flow into populated areas. They were cleared out this morning and they've already been starting to fill up. I'll show you some live camera views there, and that's long before this very intense line of rain moves through. So there still could be problems there that exceed the capacity of debris flow basins in some cases. So we'll be taking a look at that in a minute. Oh yes, just a comment about the timestamp on the radar. It's always live, so this is live radar. It shows 5 p.m. because I'm in the mountain time zone, so that's my local time. But the radar on your screen is not a prediction. That is what we're currently observing right now in front of you. Yeah, there are a lot of preemptive road closures and mandatory or non-mandatory evacuations in the debris flow areas in Southern California. I would say if you're in one of those regions right now and you haven't left, this is a good time to do it because the heaviest of the rain still hasn't arrived. And if there's going to be a catastrophic, or I probably shouldn't use that word speculatively, but a major or life-threatening debris flow, it's going to probably happen in the next couple of hours. So these would be the few hours it would be, if you're at all concerned, specifically in or near recent wildfire areas. I don't really think it's necessary anywhere else, but if you are in one of those regions, if you have been advised that you're in a debris flow hazard zone, the next few hours would probably be the time to get out. You could probably even go back before midnight in most cases and be at least reasonably assured that the greatest risk has passed. But right now, the next few hours, this is looking pretty gnarly, I gotta say. Yeah, Highway 1, the Pacific Coast Highway is already closed. I'm less concerned about maybe Pacific Palisades area simply because there's just been so much destruction there already that I don't think there's very many people who are presently there. More concerned about Malibu because people actually live there, and up in the canyons there where people might still be at the moment. But I'm actually most concerned about the Eaton fire and maybe even the Line and Bridge fire burn areas. This is just extremely heavy rainfall imminently moving into that area right now. Any idea when this will reach the Eaton Canyon area? Well, I mean, it's raining there now. Rain is now currently, as we speak, intensifying, but it looks like there's about half an hour to an hour before the torrential rain moves in. So that's what it looks like right now. Very heavy rain, MK reports in West Hollywood. Believe it or not, this is not the peak of the storm. You will see heavier rain in all likelihood in the next hour at some point. So I'm currently looking at a couple of different debris flow basin cameras just to see if there's anything interesting to see. And there, in fact, looks like there is something that's just starting to get a little bit more dramatic. So yeah, I will share these momentarily. So I'm just currently going through my list of sources, looking to see what else is going on here. Looks like, okay, so here we go. Most of LA County is now under a severe thunderstorm warning. So again, this is primarily, the trigger for this warning is wind. And as I mentioned, this is not even necessarily producing a lot of lightning right now. In fact, I don't see any cloud-to-ground lightning, but the best tool the Weather Service has, this is a convectively driven windstorm. There could be wind gusts of 60 miles an hour in addition to this torrential rainfall. So now, in addition to the flash flood threat, there's also a very strong gusty wind threat over the next hour or so. So that I'm guessing the live stream is going to rapidly gather some more viewers, as now a lot of people's phones, probably millions of people's phones, just started screeching with a severe thunderstorm warning. As I mentioned, there could be some hail, although not huge, so on the smaller side, but the bigger concern would be strong winds. And I'm going to switch over to the split screen view once again on the radar to illustrate what that looks like. Again, the area of concern for that strong wind is right along this boundary as this torrential rain and potentially strong damaging wind gusts moves through LA. This is going to be a really high impact evening storm-wise, even in places that are not at risk of debris flows, but that is where I'm most concerned about truly damaging effects. But there are also, there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of convective winds as well. So I'll bring back to full screen right now. Take a look again at some comments. Wanted to take a look at just the social media sources, since sometimes it's hard to see what else is going out. So there are evacuation orders that are now going out. Things that were warnings are now orders. This is likely, it's essentially what I just told you. This is the period of maximum risk the next few hours. This is the time to evacuate if you're in one of those debris flow hazard areas downstream of one of these recent fire zones. Okay, so we are getting some reports of debris flows and flooding already. So that is starting to ramp up. Nothing super extreme at the moment, but I'm still trying to just grab this other information as you see me live today. And I'm actually opening a second, I'm actually using the Watch Duty app again to, not for fires of course, but to take a look at these debris flow basin cameras. Okay, these are getting interesting. So I'm going to start sharing my screen again in just a minute or two. Oh yeah, okay, debris flows are starting. You can see them on the live camera views. So let me just, it's all lagged. I'll show the animation so you can see it on camera in a minute. Yes. Debris flow basins didn't used to have cameras, but they put them up following the fires, specifically to monitor what we're trying to monitor right now. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen again. So you'll see what I'm seeing rather than seeing radar 24/7. Okay, but actually I want to update one more thing on the radar first, because now almost half, 2/3 of LA County is now under a flash flood warning. That's not what I wanted to show. So this now includes all areas, not just the burn areas, from about downtown LA north and west into the San Fernando Valley, and actually all the way up I-5 up toward the pass. So this includes parts of Ventura County, much of LA County, and is intended now, I think, again, this torrential downpour could produce flash flooding anywhere, not just in the burn areas, but especially concerned about the burn areas. So that has been expanded once again. Again, rainfall rates of 3/4 of an inch to 1¼ inches per hour. 1¼ inches per hour is a very intense, that's a torrential rainfall. You're going to know it when it hits you because you're going to hear it. Okay. Now you're going to see my whole screen again. And we're going to look at a debris flow basin. So where is this? You can see in the map on the right that this is essentially east of Topanga Canyon in the Palisades Fire burn area. And this is looking east towards Brentwood. So this is one of the debris flow basins in the area. And I'm going to show just the last 15 minutes. And what you can see is torrential rain moves through. Again, this is not even the torrential rain yet. This is going to be all right. And so I want to keep that full screen. Uh, so Okay, so here is the other debris flow basin. Now, this is east of Altadena. This is near the Eaton Fire burn footprint. There could be debris flows further west into Altadena, but we don't have cameras of these right now. But here's what we do have a camera view of. And we're going to watch just the last 15 minutes of this. So this is a debris flow from earlier in the day, a minor one, but look at what happens towards the end of this animation. I'm going to refresh this. The flow is starting to increase once again. Up in this region. So you see the water starting to flow in again, some new debris. I think this is also going to look pretty dramatic over the next half an hour as this torrential rain moves through the basin. So I'm going to keep this updated. We'll continue to return to this as needed. So I'm going to go back to the radar. Again, this line of now torrential rain has moved through Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, Santa Clarita, but is now moving through Calabasas, about to go through Topanga Canyon, moving through the freeway interchange in the western San Fernando Valley now. This is probably 15 or 20 minutes away from Altadena, and even now the rain is intensifying. I would expect burn area flash flood warnings or flash flood emergencies potentially to be issued soon, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, for that area, as well as the broader flash flood warning throughout LA County. So again, I mentioned that the peak risk would be during a brief but very intense burst of precipitation this evening. This is it. It's worth noting that the models did a really good job with this, with highlighting this risk, because I was even able to plan the session almost hour by hour, depending on when this was going to be moving through LA County, and indeed, it now is. So I'm going to go to split screen again, take a look at the winds. Again, if you want to know where that severe thunderstorm warning is issued, the area where you might be getting those severe winds is essentially as this little line. You can kind of see it in that drawn area. It's a brief period of potentially very gusty, strong, and even damaging winds. That's that concern right now. So I'll bring it back to the full screen for radar because, again, rain is the primary concern. Pretty sharp back edge, so once this moves through in Ventura, you're getting a break already. There could be some additional heavier showers and thunderstorms, but the real concern is what's going through LA County right now. So this is already past you if you're in Ventura, but this continues to look rather intense, I gotta say. So let's take a look again at the debris basins. Nothing completely different than before, but still continuing to fill a bit. Let me just play the last 5 minutes from the debris basin near Santa Monica. You can see this is starting to swirl. The water is starting to swirl. This is starting to fill up. You can also see the stronger, gustier winds. The trees are moving. You can see some rivulets starting to flow down these fire-burned hill slopes. The burned structures down here. Looks like they left an excavator in the debris basin, possibly. We'll see if that stays dry. I don't know. Might be a little bit dicey. I'm assuming there's nobody in it at this point. I think it's just sitting there. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to, again, turn the radar on so I don't have to be quite on screen the entire period. So you're going to see radar scope full screen again, because I know that's one, aside from the cameras, that's probably the main visual of interest right now. So that should be what everyone's seeing once again. Okay, so I'm seeing that there were some connection issues reported. I'm actually not seeing that on my end. That might be a YouTube problem. I don't know, but a number of people reported it, so I'm guessing it's not a me problem, as in a Daniel Swain problem. If it returns, let me know. There's a comment, after heavy snow up in Trinity County, it's all rain now under 3,000 feet. So yeah, there was a low snow event earlier in this system, but now rain on that early snow probably results in a lot of tree limbs down and power outages. And in fact, the comment is that the majority of Trinity County has been without power since 4 a.m. Snow did fall in the valley, including Reading, early this morning as well, which is in line with predictions and occasionally occurs when we get these undercutting systems. So a system that's aimed more toward Southern California, and there's cold air trapped in the valleys of Northern California. Reading is probably one of the lowest elevation cities in California that can occasionally see heavy snowfalls on a not exceptional basis. It's parts of the city are down to 500 feet, and it does snow there at least a little bit every year or so, and every few years you can get a really heavy snowfall. You can get 6 inches or a foot of snow, and so it's an almost unique location in California in that context. It's the only real place at that kind of elevation. It's protected from the ocean, of course, by the mountains on 3 sides, and you're at the end of a long, increasingly narrow valley, so that cold air can get trapped, and so you actually can get significant snowfall near Reading to a much greater extent than anywhere else at 500 feet elevation in California. But hopefully the power outages, this has been an issue, and actually this has happened several times in recent years. Parts of far northern California where very low elevation, very wet, heavy snow has brought down a lot of limbs and caused a lot of disruption, especially when it comes to power outages. Danny Sue reports more than an inch of rain in the past hour. I'm in SMM, I'm guessing Santa Monica Mountains, which makes sense. Okay, so there's some additional cameras that might be of interest. Sierra Madre Canyon, Sierra Madre Bridge, Bailey Canyon, Debris Basin, and Cloudcroft. So what I've got is Cloudcroft and Bailey. So I have those tabs open. While you're watching radar, I'm going to potentially open some other ones. So it looks like these are Sierra Madre. Let's see here. That might actually help me to know on a map where those basins are, the Sierra Madre. So if you can comment where those, I'm guessing they're on different burn areas or not on burn areas. I'll come back to that in a minute. Bailey Canyon. Oh yeah, Bailey Canyon is starting to fill up. I'll show that in a minute. All right, so again, I'm looking. If anybody happens to know where those other debris basin cameras mentioned are geographically, I'll be able to find them. So I'm specifically talking about there's so many comments. I've lost the all right, well, anyway, taking a look at the radar again, this is continuing to move through. Yeah, this is pretty concerning. I mean, this is maybe 20 minutes away from Altadena, if that. And as it is now, there's heavy rain falling on the Eaton footprint. It's just going to go from heavy now to torrential as that moves through. Same thing again. In fact, now this torrential line is immediately moving through the Palisades fire burn area and along the 101 corridor here. So right now, 405 getting slammed, especially in the northern end, and then everyone else is coming next. So I'm going to double check and see if anybody has shared. Okay, so it's actually a similar camera location to what I'm talking about here. All right, well, anyway, I'm going to share that now because it is getting interesting again. Just taking a look so I can queue everything up for everybody. yeah, just taking a look right now to see to see what there is to see essentially on the debris flow basins. And all right, so you're going to see my screen again in a moment. Okay, this again is the Cloudcroft Basin. This is in the Palisades footprint, and I'm going to show just the last 5 minutes now that we're getting into the storm. So this is the last 5 minutes from this basin. Maybe that's not enough to see what's going on, so let's do 15 minutes again. What you can see is there is water and mud filling up in this basin, so you can see the water swirling around, particularly over here. The water level is rising. We'll see how high it gets. A slightly more dramatic view, last 15 minutes in the Bailey Canyon Basin. This is on the Eaton footprint. You can start to see there's a new debris flow pulse. You can see it now. So this is the purpose of these basins, by the way. You can see essentially a drain here. So this is intended to drain the water. It's got a filter on it, so the water will go out ideally. And all of this non-water woody debris, mud, ash, sort of gets trapped. You can see how this is almost a little levee on a slope. Sort of at the bottom of the debris avalanche chute, if you will. But the challenge is this has already got a decent amount of debris in it. We'll see how deep it gets. If it's just debris flow pulses like we just saw, and they will come in pulses like that, so I'll play it again. You can see it's a sudden little whoosh of debris and water. If they stay at that magnitude, they'll be well contained within this debris flow network. The problem is the downpour that's coming is going to be dramatically more intense than what we've seen so far. So we'll see how it looks. In just a minute here. Going back, here are the flash flood warnings. Okay, so the flash flood warning has now officially been issued for the Eaton burn scar. Again, this is a life-threatening debris flow warning. Radar and automated gauges are all indicating. Specifically places at risk are, of course, Altadena, Pasadena, Sierra Madre, and Mount Wilson. Of course, not too many people up there, and they're probably fine in the observatory itself, but the road up there could be pretty rough. And the flash flood warning for Ventura and LA County, again, is for flash flooding of small streams, creeks, urban areas, highways, streets, and underpasses. So again, that's consistent with what was earlier mentioned here. Just refreshing these sort of debris flow basin cameras. Here, I'll just do the last 5 minutes to see just how quickly things are changing here. So we're getting continued small little pulses. You can even literally see the ripple halfway across this basin. So this is almost continuous low-level debris flow right now. Still nothing too extreme. We'll see what happens. All right, bringing back the radar again. Okay, so here is that new flash flood warning. As I mentioned, that was probably going to be issued for the Eaton's footprint. It now has. As we go on later into the evening, there will probably be further flash flood warnings for debris flows and flash flooding issued for the line and bridge fires up in the mountains, and then maybe also down for potentially for the airport fire down in Orange County as well. But again, the big concern right now is flash flooding in the middle of LA County where everyone lives, and in particular now, the Palisades burn footprint and the Eaton burn footprint. But there probably will be some significant urban and street flooding elsewhere. This is unfortunately holding together. This is not weakening. In fact, if anything, it's still strengthening. The very worst of it is right now, I'll zoom in a little bit, moving through right now, moving through the Palisades fire footprint. So the Palisades fire burned roughly this area. And you can see within that blue is where the oranges and the reds, it was yellow before, now it's getting even worse. Now, the problem is, same thing is true with the Eaton fire footprint. It was greens and then it was yellows, now it's oranges. These are all reflective of higher intensity precipitation. But it's got to go from red to, from orange to red and maybe even to some purples. And those are very, very high rainfall rates potentially seeing. So we'll just have to see how that evolves. I'm going to put the radar, first I'm going to do one more check of the debris flow. cameras right now, see what if there's anything new and dramatic. Again, here's the most recent 5-minute view once again, pulling this back up again. We are seeing this pull. Okay, so now there's a more significant debris flow. Look at that. In the last couple of minutes, there's now a continuous higher flow. So the more significant debris flows have started. Had this debris basin not been here, this probably would have been a significant flow into a populated area. Right now, it is not. Notice how the level in this relative to the filter has not increased a lot, but it has started to rise a little bit. So the key will be how high up this filter does it go, and are there debris flows in other areas that are not contained in these basins? There could be flows in other places that are not actually part of this network, but as it is right now, there's a much more significant inflow now occurring, and again, the worst is still yet to come. So there are now active debris flows that we can see live. Here we go to the Palisades footprint. Again, this is the last 15 minutes. Seeing what happened here, inflow of water and other material into the basin. Looks like it's still reasonably well contained. It actually looks like the outflow of this basin may be on the left of camera left. I'm not entirely sure. So it may actually be flowing out this way. But the other thing to keep an eye on is just these rivulets of water flowing down these little channels here and increasing. So if we look at the other camera here, I wonder if we can see that at all. There's not a lot to see. It's windy, it's wet. Obviously, you can see that the state of the soil and the vegetation, how this rain is just falling essentially on bare soil here, and that is really the main concern. Let's go back to the Eaton footprint, and there is now a pretty significant continuous debris flow into this basin. It's pulsing still, but it is increasing. So you can see the level again has risen since the last camera view. So it'll rise up towards the camera. We'll see how far it gets. So I'm going to put the radar back on. Again, we are now just 10 or 15 minutes away from this really heavy rain making it to the Eaton footprint. It is currently moving through the Palisades footprint. Although it looks like, unfortunately, it looks like it's kind of taken on a more west to east orientation over the Palisades footprint. So this could last a while there. Hopefully that doesn't happen here to the northeast as well. So I'm going to share that camera view again with folks. You're going to get, just give me a moment here, and you're going to get it's going to be stuck on the radar for now. So, all right, so I'm going to go back to text. Sorry, not text. I'm going to go back to the chat. It's been a long day. All right, I am still here. Even if you hear brief pauses in my continuous speaking, it's just because I'm trying to not completely exhaust my voice, because this might be a slightly longer stream than usual. I probably won't cut it off right on the hour. I'll keep it going because a lot of people have yet to be hit by the worst of this, and I think a lot of people are going to be coming online in the next 20 or 30 minutes as this hits them. Okay, the Sierra Madre Canyon cameras look like they're offline. There may have been a power cut. So there's some reports from local radio. There's flooding in Studio City on the 101, not surprising. Possible mudslides on Canaan Doom, not surprising. Again, that's sort of on the western side of this right now. All right, so the severe thunderstorm was upgraded for wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour. That's a real challenge. There's a question, do you think the current evacuation perimeter for the Sierra Madre accurately reflects the mudslide risk? Honestly, it's difficult. One dramatic example of where risk was underestimated was the Montecito debris flows back in 2018, where people were killed and structures destroyed outside of the mapped debris flow hazard regions. There have been changes in how that mapping is done and how evacuations are ordered. Since then, I think they're more conservative in a good way, in the sense that they are more open to the notion that you can have debris flows that are larger and spread over wider areas than previously recognized. That said, it's still difficult to know exactly which areas to evacuate. And there are maps from the USGS and other entities that show the risk sort of in a little watershed by watershed. In this case, they're doing like micro watersheds, like individual hill slopes and creeks and rivulets and all of that, individual culverts and channels. The challenge is some of these essentially have is virtually a 100% chance of debris flows under present conditions, which is what we're seeing. There are other places that are a little more conditional. They might have like a 5 to 20% chance of a debris flow. That's definitely not zero, but it's also not likely. So what is the evacuation threshold or cutoff point? And it's always possible to get a debris flow outside of those areas, particularly in recently burned regions, because the dynamics are different than they would typically be, and they're not solely driven by geology and topography. They're also driven by the newness of that burn area and the rapid alteration of the surface, the land surface condition, including the soil and the vegetation, or now lack thereof. So I'm going to there's some folks saying that the debris flow basin cameras got even more dramatic, so I'm going to quickly discuss the radar again. Again, this line is moving, so right now, as we speak, if there was already flooding in Burbank, it's about to get worse. This line hasn't even moved through yet. It's about to get torrential. Same thing again. Palisades fire footprint. Unfortunately, this is actually a stalled east to west band right now, right over the fire zone. Likely significant debris flows, mudslides, flash flooding. If they're not already ongoing, they will develop shortly. The worst of it still hasn't moved into Eaton Canyon. There's already major debris flows, major flooding in this area, on roads and in urban areas. I'll take a look at the split screen view just to look at the winds again. Yeah, that's quite the dramatic wind shift. So again, those 70 miles an hour gusts, it's not a broad area, but everyone's potentially going to get in on this. It's this line, this green line, as it moves across. You can see that strong gust of winds, and I'm trying to see if it's ahead of, yeah, it's just ahead of the heaviest rain. So what might happen as this goes through, it's already raining moderately to heavily, you get a huge gust of winds, and then the rain intensifies even more to torrential levels. That is kind of what this looks like right now. That is a pretty striking image right now, I gotta say. All right, so I'm gonna take a look at the debris flow basins once again for a moment, see what's going on. Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting. All right, I got something cool to show. This is genuinely cool rather than destructive. Let's hope that it stays that way. All right, and then okay, so I'm gonna bring back screen share. You're gonna see my screen again. Okay, so here's what just happened. Take a look at what's going on at Malibu, or on the Palisades fire footprint. It looks like the sky just cleared up. Did the storm let up? At first I thought this camera view was essentially telling us that it went back in time. But you know what actually is going on, and this is actually a really fascinating thing to corroborate, is watch what happens, right, really quick. This is on a steep slope. Right here, this slope is exposed to the strong winds going up the canyon. But what actually just happened, that camera is located right about here, or thereabouts, looking east. Think about what just happened. You know how I mentioned there was winds like this ahead of the front and like this behind the front? Well, that camera just captured this wind shift going through. Now, what's happening, as you can see, is the rain has absolutely not let up. In fact, the rain in this camera site is actually heavier than it's been at any point. But the reason why the visibility improved was this dramatic wind shift that just occurred right in front of our eyes. That is pretty cool, I gotta say, and it's remarkable to be able to corroborate that. And the other thing you can see is now that the view is clearer towards the end of this, there's actually a much higher rate of water inflow all of a sudden towards the end of this, and the water level is now, in fact, you can see mud, a significant amount of mud and debris. So this is now officially seeing some debris flow into this basin here with the water level rising and some actual debris that's not just water. You can see these little rivulets right here too. Once it clears out, they're actually becoming more pronounced, not less, as the rain intensifies. Yep, you can see that. Wow. So it's amazing to see that in real time. Here's Bailey Canyon on the Eaton fire. All right, so there's now a real rising level of debris. The water level's rising, the debris level's rising. Let's look at the last 15 minutes. So you see minor debris flow. Now it's a major debris flow. It's a much more significant amount. It's still coming in pulses, but right now it's just sort of alternating between flash flood and more debris flow levels. But see how the level is rising up this filter and rising up through here. So some of this material may start to now get diverted down here outside of the basin. So we're starting to see some flow out of the basin now as the level rises closer to the top. And again, the heaviest rain is yet to arrive. So that is it's going to get worse. This is probably going to be a pretty dramatic view over the next half an hour. So just again now, looking at the last 5 minutes back in on the Palisades fire, you can see that filling up a much more significant torrent flowing into this debris basin. Okay, so I was wrong. The outlet actually is on this side, it looks like. It's just that there was some turbulence, but now it's really starting to fill up. You can see the water flowing down each of these areas like this, and you can see the rain now, and you can see these rivulets picking up. So here's that rain again. It's the very worst of it is now moving right over that Topanga Canyon and the Palisades burn footprint. So if we're going to see major debris flows and landslides, as we're starting to see on the debris flow camera, it's going to happen right now. Here's the Eaton fire footprint. Again, this is still pretty concerning. This burst of rain, it's nearly there. It's east of Burbank. It's just minutes away from hitting Altadena and maybe 10 minutes away from the heart of the Eaton fire burn footprint. So that I may actually bring that up on camera and leave that up on screen live in a minute or two once things get even dicier. So again, here is the last 5 minutes. Once again, if I update, continuing significant flow. Right now it's more of a flash flood than a debris flow potentially, but there have been pulses of debris into the canyon there. I'm actually gonna leave, let's see, I'm gonna leave this up right now. This will auto update. So I'm gonna leave this, well, all right, I take that back. I'm gonna put the radar back up for now. It's easier for me to leave that up on screen right now. But you can see what's going on with the split screen view. I want to go take a look at the comments again. So there's a comment that Bailey is up about 2 feet in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, I mean, again, that is what they're designed for, these basins, but on the other hand, this is potentially going to be a fairly high-end debris flow event, so we'll see if it stays contained. So far, it looks like they are, but that may not stay that way forever. So Chuck mentions 1.72, so nearly 2 inches per hour rainfall rate in La Cañada right now, which is really, really heavy and well more than enough to produce flash flooding and debris flows. Okay, Sierra Madre Canyon cameras are back online. Okay, so I'm gonna try and, while we're here, I'm gonna try and find those. I think those are the ones on the eastern side of the fire footprint, I believe. I'm just not finding them, so I'm trying to I'm doing a quick. Okay, now I see where they are. Oh, so they're actually west of where I thought they were. Okay, now I'm seeing on a map where they are. Okay, so wait, Sierra Madre. Okay, if anybody can show me on a map where this mysterious canyon is, I just cannot find it right now on the watch duty interface. Yeah, if anybody can add that, I will. Or sorry, if anybody can just tell me where that is, that's all I need to know. I just cannot find it right now, and I don't think people want to. Okay, it's just east of the Bailey cams. Oh, I see. They're in really close proximity. I see. Okay. That's what the problem is actually. Got it. Okay, actually, it looks like they're just west of the Bailey cams. But anyway, I see what you mean. It's in the same. It's almost in the same canyon. It looks like. No, I'm still. Okay, all right. Sorry for the confusion, folks. I think I got them, and one of them is back online, and there is a major debris flow, so I will show that. Okay, yeah, that is. Yeah, one of the cameras is offline. One of them is showing a major debris flow. So. Okay, so I will quickly. I'll show that in a minute. I'm going to zoom out for some radar. Again, so in the next 20 minutes, like next 5 to 20 minutes, that's when we're going to see the big debris flows on the Eaton fire if we're seeing them. Right now, also, as we speak, they will be unfolding on the Palisades fire. Later, in the next hour or two to the east, line and bridge fires, etc. So what I'm going to do is reshare my whole screen again so you can see once again what I am seeing live. Okay, so here we are, multiple debris basins. Here is Cloudcroft. This is in the Palisades fire. Look at that really filling up in the last 15 minutes quite a bit. Look at that water level now getting pretty close to the excavator, in fact, that we were talking about. It looks like there's an outlet here, but there's a lot of flow. The flow in this tiny little creek, look at that. Look how much it's increased the flow in. These rivulets, so there's a lot more erosion happening right now. So clearly this is picking up, but the more dramatic I think is the Bailey Canyon again. This is the last 15 minutes. You can see this massive debris, this ongoing flash flood with pulses of debris and debris flows. If I look at just at the last 5 minutes here, you can see that the water level, the debris level I suppose it is, has risen a bit, and there's a diversion, so some of the water is flowing out in that direction. But here's the really dramatic one, honestly. Here's the Sierra Madre Canyon one, and look at the channel. That's a major flash flood. I think that's probably more like a flash flood than a debris flow. Sometimes it's a little bit of a, it's a little bit unclear which is which, but the level of this has risen significantly, and this is a large volume coming down even before the bulk of the heaviest rain has come through. So here is the Sierra Madre Bridge. You can sort of see, look at that erosion being carved down that steep slope as we speak. Literally, over the past 15 minutes, there's this little channel that's been carved down the mountain. The big concern is what happens when this rain doubles in intensity in the next 15 minutes. This will be an interesting one to watch as well. In fact, I'm actually going to duplicate this, bring up the other one so we can toggle more easily back and forth between these. So here's the full screen version of this. Yeah, that volume is quite something. So we're going to see this live. See this live. Now we've got this live. Let's update it. And then this live as well. It looks like there was a big debris pulse while we were watching. Okay, oh, there's the debris pulse, and it's starting to really accumulate here. Okay, so this water is now touching that excavator. That's how quickly. I think presumably they parked it there thinking it wasn't going to go over here, but actually this excavator is starting to get wet. So again, this escalated quickly. The heaviest rain right now is moving through right now through the Palisades burn area. So that is okay. And now officially, the torrential rain has entered the Eaton fire footprint. So the western part of the footprint, Altadena, Pasadena, torrential rain, and that's going to continue for a little while. The strong winds are essentially existing right now. That severe thunderstorm warning, again, even though there's not a lot of lightning, those strong winds are essentially along this green line moving eastward. So now moving through Glendale, Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, about to move through central LA. Torrential rain associated with it as well. So I might actually move to a different radar site right now, see Santa Monica Mountains, see if this is what we want to see instead. Is this a better view? It might increasingly be a better view. This just gives us a slightly different perspective on things. No, actually, I still prefer the LA view right now. I'm going to bring that back. We can always switch to the other one later. All right, so I'm going to leave. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen directly, and I'm going to bring up a multi-panel view of the debris flow basins. I got to do that off camera though, so here's your Weather Channel weather radar for just a minute or two while I do this. Okay, so what I have to do is, so I'm actually doing this live. All right, let's get this up on the map. This is what I'm looking for. All right here. Trying to figure out if it's still possible to get the multi-panel view on these cameras here, to choose individual cameras on the Alert California network. That used to be possible, but right now I'm not sure if it is. I'm just looking to see if this is something that can be brought up. All right, well, I might actually let somebody else tell me in the comment section if this is something that can be easily managed, but I'm going to take a moment for the comments right now. Okay, someone's saying that Cloudcroft is about to spill. All right, so there's a comment, LA County Fire Dispatch for debris flow near Los Flores and Pacific Coast Highway. Not surprising, but probably a significant debris flow if that's been a. All right, so I'm gonna bring that back up. If somebody knows the Alert California network how to bring up a multi-panel view, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing what I've been doing. I'll come back to the comments in a minute or two. I'm going to go back to what I'm seeing. Okay. Here's Cloudcroft. So looks like, yeah, that excavator is taken on some water in the last couple of frames. If it gets much deeper, they might have to rebuild that engine, since they can, obviously the tracks on an excavator are made of metal. It's no problem for those to get wet, but it looks like it's climbing up the side of that excavator a little bit. And actually, the water level is pretty close to the top of the basin here. I don't know if this is a basin that has less water outflow capacity than others, but it looks like this drain is being overwhelmed right now, and it might be overwhelmed with debris. So this one actually might produce a pretty major debris flow downstream. So again, most of the homes here unfortunately burned in the fire, but this may be a significant debris flow that we're watching unfold right here, because it's about to exceed the capacity of this basin. Yeah, it's actually right up at the top right now. Here's the Bailey Basin. Let's see how this has evolved. Again, this is still pretty far from the top, but the level has risen, and there is significant outflow. You can see that the rate of inflow has increased with the heavy rainfall. Here's that. All right, so it looks like they changed the camera view. So let's look at 15 minutes. So you can see that active erosion, geology in action. Okay, so here's a debris flow on a road. So it looks like they shifted the camera angle to be pointing towards the road. You can see that there's some debris and some water on the road, so unclear how bad that's about to get. Here's the other Sierra Madre Canyon view, again, of the canyon itself. There's been essentially a continuous flash flood. Let's see if the volume has increased over the last 15 minutes. You can kind of benchmark it relative to this. It's somewhat steady. Maybe it's increased a little bit, but I think in some ways, okay, so there's somebody just arrived. It looks like a pickup truck just arrived at the edge of the debris flow basin. It looks like somebody, Public Works or whoever it is, I don't know if they're able to clear the drain remotely or what, or if they're just assessing the status, since this is right up at the top of the basin here. Looks like they might have been able to do something with that debris. I don't know if they're going to try and move the excavator or what. But that's you know, there's a lot going on here. Bailey Basin, again, watching this just kind of rise as the heavy rain intensifies. Ideally, everything's contained in the basins, but of course the problem is that there aren't basins everywhere. So again, looking at the last 15 minutes of this, you see the erosion on the hillside, and then this modest flow over the road. Looks like it might be increasing a little bit. Sierra Madre Canyon, looks like that has increased a little bit too. I'm going to look at the radar and again show the very heaviest of the rain is right now moving over the Eaton Fire. So sometimes there's a bit of a delay, maybe 5 or 10 minutes between the heaviest of the rain and the worst debris flow risk. So we'll see what happens. But the worst of the rain is now still over or just moving out of the Palisades fire. Now that doesn't mean the rain is over, and there could be additional heavy downpours behind this that cause additional debris flow risk, but again, the main risk right now is with this main band of rain that's moving through. So currently over the Eaton fire footprint and just starting to move out of the Palisades fire footprint. New flash flood warning issued. I think this is probably for the September 2024 fires up in the mountains. This is going to include Wrightwood, Running Springs, all these areas down by Highland, East Highland, down into the valley below. So let's see what the warning is here. Yeah, up to 1 inch per hour. So it's a 4-hour long warning. They expect this to last a while. So again, all of this is trying to move toward the more eastern fire footprints. And this little feature back here, this very, very intense convective downpour, is about to move on shore between Santa Monica and El Segundo. So this is going to be some urban and street flooding moving on shore with that. That can move across central LA and produce some urban flooding too. Nothing catastrophic by any means, but could pose some major urban and roadway flood problems for sure. This map is getting crowded with all these warnings. This severe thunderstorm warning was now also extended eastward for wind gusts to 70 miles an hour potentially. Again, 70-mile-an-hour winds and torrential rainfall is nothing to sneeze at all. So looking back at the debris flow basin cameras. This is Sierra Madre Canyon. We got a good flash flood going through the canyon right now. That level, you can see that, and look at that rain. That last, you can just see the amount of rain, just sheer water flowing down from the sky here. Oh, and you can actually see a new little, you see this area here, this new flow, this little erosion and debris flow right into the canyon directly. So of course this is all accumulating. That last frame is looking pretty impressive. Let's see what this roadway view looks like. And there is, again, they shifted the camera halfway into this. It looks like the flow is increasing a bit over the road now. So now we have a flow down the road in the canyon there. Again, this is on the Eaton footprint. The basin is continuing to fill a little bit in these pulses, these big pulses of water. You can see again the intensity of that rain is visibly greater in the later frames here. So as I said, over the last 15 minutes, that rain has considerably intensified. This flash flooding and debris flow will likely lag that rain a bit. So the biggest pulse is likely going to come in a few minutes on that one. Likely it's coming right now or has already come here. Let's see what's going on in the Palisades footprint. So here was that big pulse that got close to the top of the basin. I don't know if they were able to clear the drain or what, but there's a lot of water and debris inflow, and it looks like the water level is a bit stable. The excavator is surviving. Whoever was monitoring has left. So that's actually a little bit low, even though the inflow is really high right now. The level is, obviously this water is going somewhere, so there might be some flooding downstream where the outlet is, but the rain is letting up here. So the big concern right now is really the Eaton footprint, and then very shortly the line and bridge fires to come. And I don't know if we have any debris flow cameras set up at those recent fire sites. Okay, so there was another big pulse in between camera frames. If I just do a 5-minute version of this, you can see there was another big pulse here in the last couple of minutes, and another real debris-laden pulse. So you can see the debris is accumulating here, it's getting deeper, and then the water, some of it's flowing out that way, and some of the rest of it's flowing out through that vertical drain. But the level is continuing to rise in this basin, and the inflow is getting quite turbulent. I mean, look at that. That's a much larger amount of water flowing in than was the case previously. Again, we go back to the Sierra Madre Bridge. Again, I'm going to go back to the 5-minute view on this. So the debris, it's nothing extreme, but now this road would be dangerous to drive on. It's pretty much covered by water and mud flowing rapidly downhill. Actually, there's something else. If you look behind, do you see that? Oh wow, look at that. You look in the background, look at that. Really, that's a more significant debris flow. You can see how sudden it was. That was a 5-minute window. I'm just replaying the same thing. In the initial frame, look what happens. There's a little bit of water, there's some rocks, and then shoot, there you go downhill at the end there. So that's an indication of how rapid it can be. I don't know what happened to the camera there. Let's see what's going on. Here's Sierra Madre Canyon. Okay, so they changed the direction of the camera. So let's see. So you can see here's the debris flow basin. This is a big basin, by the way. Now this is more like a dam. You see the concrete structure. Look at all that debris. So this is capturing major inflow behind that big dam. So actually this is the water. So that's why we're not seeing so much debris here. I think that's the water outflow. The debris, as it's supposed to be, is being caught behind the debris. This dam feature. So all of this woody debris, this ash, this mud. The water inflow, as you can see, is sort of picking up behind it up there, and what we're seeing is the outflow from that debris basin, which is mainly the water that's filtering on all of this stuff. But this is continuing to rise. Yeah, we're seeing that more significant debris flow coming down the mountain slope behind this road right here. And this is the Sierra Madre Bridge. There's a pretty decent debris flow going on underneath. Here's the Bailey. It looks like we got another big pulse, and now there's like a continuous big flash flood pulse moving into, so this is now rapidly rising. A lot of water inflow, pretty significant flash flood developing in the canyon back here. Again, almost inevitable. Go back to the Palisades fire. We're looking at this now. We see what's going on. We see that truck come and go. We see them maybe clear the drain. I don't know how they they're moving the excavator. All right. Someone's in the excavator. Looks like they might try and clear the drain with it. I think that might be why they have it positioned where it is. Oh, they moved it down to the street, and now there's a bulldozer there. Oh, I guess it was there the whole time. So never mind. They moved the excavator. Maybe they're concerned. They are indeed concerned about flooding out the excavator. All right. So here's the Bailey again. I'm gonna go take a look at comments soon. So just rotating through the debris flow basins again. It looks like they zoomed in even more. Let's see what this last 5 minutes looks like here. Yeah, so you can see that that really strong inflow is and that water level's rising. So I'm going to go back to sharing radar as I look at questions. I'll talk about the radar briefly right now. Again, right now the heaviest of the rain is moving right through Glendale and essentially the eastern San Fernando Valley and downtown LA. So it is pouring. I'm sure all the freeways are a complete disaster in this general vicinity. So again, the axis of heaviest rain is still, and the strongest wind gusts too, where there is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. You know, there's not a lot of lightning for these strong gusty winds. The leading edge is sort of along that blue line that I just drew. That's where I'd expect the strongest winds. The rain is starting to let up Palisades fire, although again, there is heavier downpours again behind it still. The very heaviest rain might be over for portions of the Eaton fire, but look at this though. There's a much wider area of very heavy rain, maybe not torrential, but still very heavy to come through. So that's yet to come through. And all of this is moving eastward. Everybody who hasn't gotten wet yet is still going to get wet sometime soon. So I'm going to look at the live feed once again. The comment that the wind picked up big time in Eagle Rock, not surprising. Comment that debris flow has gone up and over the Pacific Coast Highway. Again, there was nearly a 100% chance of that happening today. Richard comments, I heard this awful weather has something to do with the Earth's magnetic field being compromised. Well, this is one of those rare cases where I can say something with virtually 100% certainty. That is, in fact, not why this is happening. Probably for the better that this is not why that's happening. It's not why it's happening, first of all, because A, the Earth's magnetic field has not been compromised, and B, even if it had been, it would not immediately affect terrestrial weather in any particularly dramatic way. It might cause other problems, but big storms on Earth are not one of them because Earth's weather is not substantially driven by the magnetic field. It is a process that does not influence tropospheric weather conditions to any substantial degree. Sounds like there was a moderate earthquake. Not quite sure where, but 4.4, 4.5 magnitude. Definitely enough to feel it if you're nearby. Not enough to cause big problems unless something unusual happens. Okay, so it's near Parkfield, so that's the part of the San Andreas fault zone that likes to give a whole lot of moderate quakes, and more than its fair share of bigger ones too. So it's a place quite used to it. Comment that the frontal passage has arrived near downtown LA, and that's exactly what I'm seeing on radar, so I believe you're correct. I'm able to look at the line fire Big Bear area if that's possible. I'll take a closer look in a moment. Again, the heaviest rain is still well to the west, but there's now a flash flood warning in effect for those areas. So over the next hour, I would expect conditions in and near the line and bridge fire footprints to get a lot worse real quickly. And the reality is, those are in many cases even steeper mountain slopes than what we're seeing on the Palisades and the Eaton fire zone. So there is significant potential there too for major debris flows as well. Timothy mentions, I think this is downtown LA, heavy sheeting rain and wind and waterfall off the building roof. All right, there's comments that the Bailey Canyon Basin is getting spicy again, so you're going to see my screen again, and I'm going to watch that with you once again. Well, actually, I'll quickly share some satellite imagery in the last final frames of the evening, just for fun for those who've joined later. As I mentioned earlier, here's the cold front. It's moving through LA right now. Winds at the surface are like this. So if you're getting strong winds, they're probably from the south or southwest at the surface. But look at this cloud feature at a 90-degree angle to the cold front. This is the jet streak, so an accelerated portion of the jet stream. And again, you can see the jet streak in this area essentially as these cirrus clouds become more pronounced. And you can see that there's vertical wind shear because they're sort of forming this herringbone pattern like this, perpendicular to the cold front. So this jet streak is energizing at the base of the cold front where the atmospheric river like this aligns essentially. Here's the atmospheric river, here's the cold front, here's the jet streak intensifying it, and that's why Southern California is getting so much rain right now. So here is again is the Palisades footprint debris flow. So the water, looks like the inflow rates have come down. Looks like this one was able to manage quite a bit of debris in the basin, but again, that is what it's designed for, the water levels coming down. So I'm going to emphasize that less. Here's the Bailey debris basin, and that has gotten a lot higher. Wow, let's look over 15 minutes. Lots of big pulses. That's a major debris flow pulse. This is closer to the top. It's not at the top, but it's higher to the top of the drain. There's probably a significant outflow of water right now, so there might be some flash flooding downstream, even though this captured a lot of the debris. That's a lot of water and debris that's moved in the last couple of minutes. So here is the Sierra Madre Bridge again, seeing a debris flow under the bridge, to a lesser extent on the road. It looks like the rain may have slightly let up there, but there's a new debris flow sort of forming, carving a new channel on this side here. Here's the Sierra Madre Canyon debris flow basin. Wow, that really filled up quite a lot. Watch what happens over the last 15 minutes here. Look at that inflow and how much material that's accumulated. This is what would be flowing through neighborhoods if these basins weren't here. Wow, okay, that is really dramatic. That is actually quite close to the top of the channel. That is actually, let's look at the other view here. Oh, they got rid of it. That's actually kind of concerning. The Sierra Madre Canyon, this has filled very rapidly, so I think this is actually the place where we're seeing some real problems now. Look at the last few frames of this and just how dramatically that filled up. That's like a 10 or 15 foot rise in just a couple of minutes. So I am going to actually leave this tab open. All right, so I'm reading there's a new flash flood warning for, all right, the other parts, the more central and eastern parts of LA County now. That includes not just the burn areas, but other areas for rain that's expected to cause significant flooding, including of the 210 freeway. Severely affected by flooding, potentially. Okay, a life-threatening debris flow warning for the Bridge Fire Burn Scar. That is now occurring. And the Eaton. Looks like there's a bit of a typo here. Anyway, it doesn't matter. All the burn scars now have these emergency life-threatening debris flow warnings going. You're gonna see my screen here for a moment. Well, okay. I'm going to go back to the comments in a moment. So looks like the significant inflow continues into the Bailey, but the Sierra Madre is really where the concerning level is right now. I'm just going to go to the last 5 minutes. And you can see even over the last 5 minutes, a rapid rise in the water and debris level. I mean, this is getting close to the top of that structure actually, and this is a much larger basin. So look at the volume of this had it not been contained. So hopefully it remains contained, but you can see really strong inflow at the top still. That's kind of concerning. So what you're going to see now is a particular well, give me a moment here. I gotta pop out this window now. So just give me a second here and I'll have this ready to go again. So I'm gonna put the Sierra Madre debris basin live in its own window because that's kind of where some of this drama is most notable at the moment. So you're going to see briefly, you're going to see a window and you're going to see, what are you going to see? I think this is the right, yes, this is the right one. Okay, now you're seeing this live. It should be updating every 1 or 2 minutes. It just did, so we're in good shape. Okay. So I'm going to consult quickly social media off camera so I can see what's going on also. It's difficult to do that all at once. There's even a report that that waterspout that I mentioned near Oxnard may have even come ashore as a brief tornado. So that's interesting. All right, what else is going on? All right, so I'm just, again, trying to get okay, so it seems like there was potentially a tornado in Oxnard earlier when I mentioned that came on shore. The description of the damage is there was a mobile home park with many power lines downed, a dozen mobile homes damaged, including some roofs peeled off. So that sounds an awful lot like a tornado that came through during the early part of my session talking about that potential for brief spin-ups. I highlighted one that had spun down. But that looks like that actually did come ashore as a tornado after all. Man, quite the storm, I gotta say. All right, so what I'm getting are quite a few flood and swiftwater rescue reports. All right, so there's a debris flow also now in the Hollywood Hills, Mulholland Drive. That's probably I think it was the Mulholland fire. I don't remember which one it was. The smaller one, just above Hollywood. Seems like there's a debris flow there. The traffic map of LA right now, of course, looks like the disaster that it is. Yeah, lots of places with pretty remarkable levels of hourly rainfall that I'm seeing, very much validating the concerns up front about this storm. All right, so I'm looking at the comments again just to catch up. Water rescue in Altadena, unfortunately not surprising. That means that water somehow has reached places where people actually are physically positioned. Yeah, sunset fire. Sorry, that was the fire up in the Hollywood Hills. So there's a debris flow there. Um, I'm taking a look at off camera at the Bailey Canyon again. The level has been essentially stable the last 15 minutes, although there's still really high inflow. The Sierra Madre Bridge, I'm looking at that off camera as well. Just trying to see if there's what's going on here. All right, quite a bit of erosion. But the big one is the one you see live on your screen, the Sierra Madre Canyon 2 camera. That is really just dramatic footage from the last 15 minutes or so of just this enormous water level rise. It's still rising, actually. It doesn't look like it's meaningfully receded. Um, so that's a big volume of water. And keep in mind, too, that even just that water level, the basin is designed to catch the debris, not necessarily store all the water. And this is getting to the point where the water is, and I'm going to play this as an animation. You're going to see this. The amount of water here is enough to cause big time flooding downstream if this inflow continues, which it has. And so the water's got to go somewhere. Okay, it looks like it's receded like maybe a foot, but it rose like 20 or 30 feet. So, that's still really dramatic. And, the rain continues. In fact, it looks like it may even briefly re-intensify, although perhaps not as intense as it was previously. There's now a continuous area of flash flood warnings for almost all of the transverse ranges of Southern California. So this is worth noting. That includes all the major wildfire burn areas from September and January. So, it remains a serious situation. And there are debris flows and major flooding being reported well outside of the fire burn areas at the moment as well. So I'll take a look at some more comments here. There's some comments that Sierra Madre may have overtopped. Let's see if there is a panoramic view. I don't see that option. Maybe I need to go directly to the other site. I'm using the embedded watch duty version, but let me see if I can get that camera up on its original. Okay, let's see here. I'm struggling to find an option for widescreen. If anybody can point me in that direction, this definitely would be worth doing right now, given what we're seeing unfolding in front of us. Does anybody have a direct URL, a direct link to the wide angle view? I am just not finding it right now. Let's see. All right. Well, for now, I'll keep taking a look. If anybody has a direct link to the wide-angle view on that camera, I just can't find it. So I will pull it up if somebody can give me a link. Right. So it continues to look, as you can see, fairly dramatic. I'm going to play animation again. Again, it rose a lot over this 15 minutes. There was a brief period of recession. Let's see if it's unclear if it's continued though. And again, the inflow is still clearly very high. Yeah, so that may have overtopped. I don't know. It's difficult for me to tell right now. Somebody, I think, maybe posted a direct link. Maybe that links, I don't know if links are allowed by other commenters. Maybe they're not. Is this on the Alert California website? Since I have it pulled up there as well as in Watch Duty. And I'm just not seeing any options for a different view right now. One thing I am doing is I'm trying to look up some cameras up in the mountains where some of these other fire footprints have been. I don't think we have any debris basin cameras there, unfortunately. Okay, I see. Maybe this will work. Yeah, let's see here. Okay, I got it. Thanks, folks. I think I have it up. So I'm going to start sharing a different tab. So hold on, folks. Okay, I think what you're now seeing is what other people were intending to see. Let's play all of this over 30 minutes. I think the bottom is just a live snapshot view of the wide angle, so I'm just figuring out how to use this. Let's see here. This is the problem with doing it all live, is everything Oh, I see. You can scroll through here. Okay, so there's somebody monitoring. Okay, so there's the wide angle. I can kind of zoom left and right. All right, that's interesting. All right, here's the expanded bottom view. Doesn't look like there's a way to animate it, but you can get the... it's hard to get a perspective. Oh, I see. Okay, so this is sort of the panoramic. Yeah, there's this is pretty dramatic footage. So it doesn't look like it was currently over top, but it is very close to the top. I don't know. All right, well, I'll leave this up for now. Whoever that is making a phone call. All right. It's just a tremendous volume, though, of waters, for sure. Oh, okay. Well, let me see. It looks like there is a way to pan through time if I go back in time. Oh, I see, I see. Okay, so let's focus this. Okay, so yes, it was overtopping actually. So this debris basin, it did overtop earlier. So that's probably the result. That's probably causing uh, the flash flooding in Altadena. That's probably why there was swift water rescue. So here it is. You can see it not overtopping. This is water coming out of the base as it's designed to, but then it overtopped. Okay, so it was overtopping. So look at that. At its peak, then, it did significantly overtop. That may have produced some significant flooding. So it looks like the overtopping has slowed, although it is still going over the top. So that is pretty dramatic. I'm going to show it again. So we're going back in time. Just folks watching and monitoring. Here's earlier, high flow but not overtopping, and now look at that cascade of water and mud over the top of the debris flow basin that has receded somewhat but is continuing. So I'm going to leave this open for now. Take a look at the comments again. So there may have been some flash flooding as a result of that downwind, even though the level's dropping. So there's a comment that the wash and the creek below the dam is indeed overflowing in Sierra Madre. So that is a significant concern, because that's an area where there was not as much structure loss, so people have probably returned to those communities. So again, a lot of this is evidence of debris basins doing their job, but there's also the concern that some of these were overtopped and there's probably flash flooding downstream. So I'm going to share weather radar again. I'm going to bring this back to single screen, not split screen, and I'm now going to switch over to the Santa Ana radar. So again, the heaviest rain, it's still pouring in Altadena, but the worst is behind you. It's still pouring. Well, actually, there's a break in the rain over in Palisades Fire right now. But right now, the focus shifts again to this region here. So the mountains above the San Fernando, the San Gabriel valleys, and the mountains and the foothills above the Inland Empire. This is where the line fire, the bridge fire, other fires burned. There are flash flood warnings in effect for flash flooding and debris flow, which is likely in all of these areas below the snow line right now. This heavy rain, of course, is now moving through into the Inland Empire, so the freeways, the 210, are probably a mess. Again, this area right here is sort of the axis of heaviest rain, and it's going to continue to move eastward, so everyone's going to get it. Some heavy downpours moving through Inglewood right now. But at this point, the remaining real risk of debris flows and flash floods, it's ongoing, of course, on the Eaton footprint because the rain continues and those watersheds take a while to drain. So the flood threat is ongoing and obviously significant. But the threat yet to come is mainly up here. And again, so you see this carve out where it looks like it's not raining because there's no rain. That's false. That's just because the radar beam can't make it past the mountains. So it is raining in this region quite heavily, or snowing depending on your elevation. You just can't see it on this radar view. So maybe this isn't the best view. Maybe LA is still the best perspective on this. Yeah, I think it is right now, unfortunately. So you're going to continue to see that. Looks like there is still some overflow on the Sierra Madre debris flow basin going on. All right, so I'm gonna go check out some other sources, see what's going on. Unfortunately, once this moves into the mountains, I'm not gonna have as many visuals and might not have as much information in general to share with folks. So we'll see how that goes, but that might be time for me to wrap things up for now. We'll see, though. I want to take a look at a few more things here. I'm currently taking a look at all these cameras on the back end. Let's see if what the reports are here. All right, well, as I say, it's a little more difficult to get this information in real time than it used to be with the switch up of social media, to put it mildly. All right, well, looks like the Weather Service has expanded that severe thunderstorm warning even farther to the east. So, again, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts still possible. I'm not seeing a lot of lightning, but this is sometimes the Weather Service will do when it is a convective or thunderstorm cloud-like wind event with gusts over 65 miles an hour. It may or may not actually be a thunderstorm with lightning, but it is behaving like one, and so that is why that warning was issued. Again, now this is extending eastward and moving toward the Inland Empire. And the back edge of the heavy rain is now moving out of the Eaton fire footprint and has already moved out of the Palisades fire footprint, but is moving into the bridge and line fire footprints and will later the airport fire, as well as other fires. There was actually a lightning strike earlier all the way down here, interestingly, down by Riverside. So there is some lightning in these clouds. It just isn't necessarily happening primarily over the city of LA right now. So right now, I mean, let me take one more look and then I'll bring my face back up on screen. Okay. So it's been a while, you haven't seen me, but you will momentarily. Okay. Well, folks, this has been quite the evening if you're in the LA Basin or really anywhere in LA County or Ventura County. There have been some major debris flows that we've seen live on camera as these torrential rains have moved through. The good news is, at least as far as I can tell so far, a lot of the really big ones have been mostly contained in the big debris flow basins, which were designed to do just that, contain these kinds of flows. They did reach the top of the basin, so particularly in and near Eaton Canyon, those basins were essentially filled to the brim with water and released an amount of water downstream that probably is causing some flash flooding. I don't really have details, not 100% sure about that, but since the most torrential rain has moved through, the worst is likely either ongoing or has already occurred in those areas, but the worst is yet to come, higher up in the mountains and in the line bridge fire footprints. So there could be major debris flows down in Highland, East Highlands, and in other areas that are in that vicinity in the next hour or so. So it will take longer for the rain to, the very intense rain to reach those areas and longer for it to move out of those areas. So lots of flooding, lots of debris flows, so those forecasts were good, and the debris flow basins look to have primarily worked as designed so far, so hopefully that stays the case. Not all of the places that will see debris flows, though, have basins, and so those are the areas where there are enhanced concerns later tonight, especially in the San Gabriel Mountains and some of the steeper slopes areas. I'm probably going to wrap up this live stream right now. I'll be following through the evening if anything particularly dramatic develops. Hopefully it doesn't. It does sound like there was a damaging tornado in Ventura, waterspout potential that I was talking about early in the session that did in fact apparently move ashore as a weak tornado, damaging about 20 structures in a mobile home park. So that will mark the, I don't know how many tornadoes there have been in coastal Ventura County over the past few years, but it's more than a couple. Let's say that. Again, very heavy rain moving across the heart of the Inland Empire now, and most of eastern LA County. All of this is going to move into Orange County in the next couple of hours. San Diego will see a rain too, although it'll be less intense by the time it gets down there. There is an ongoing major flood threat. And by major, I want to be clear, this is not necessarily a threat of severe or catastrophic river flooding. The main concern in this context has a lot more to do with widespread street and urban flooding, which certainly can be a nuisance, which certainly can cause problems, and it can be dangerous if you're not careful, but it's generally not the kind of flooding that takes reasonably well prepared people by surprise or puts them at immediate risk. But the other more higher end concern in terms of threat to life and property remains in and near these wildfire burn zones in very steep terrain, where the recency of these fires combined with the intensity of the precipitation could produce very large and life-threatening debris flows, as we've seen live on camera this evening, although much of them that we've seen on camera at least have been contained by these basins. On the other hand, we don't have cameras elsewhere, so I can't be certain about what is going on in other places at the moment, even right now. Lots of comments either today and earlier this week how John McPhee wrote extensively about the risk of debris flows in this part of the state, in the San Gabriel Mountains, the history of what happened before the debris flow basins were there. The book is called The Control of Nature, as Zeke has just mentioned, and it is definitely worth reading. I think the particular essay or piece that describes the debris flows, their historic past, the geology and the climatology that has shaped them, and to a certain extent the folly of man in building repeatedly in these debris flow basins, which are fairly obvious. If you look at a satellite view or you walk the canyons, you can see all of the evidence of debris flows over decades and centuries previous. Of course, the ones in recent decades are often less extreme than the ones you have to go back a couple of centuries to experience, and so sometimes you can be in the canyon and see the debris deposited in the canyons carved by the more common events, and then you look up the edge of the canyon and you say, well, that was probably a 200 or 300 year event, and it's way, way, way up there above your head, and you're standing amidst houses, and you say, well, at some point this is going to be a problem. And so this is not a recent writing, by the way. This is not a new thing. It's not like we didn't have debris flows or wildfires in this part of the state in the past. But as always, it's the intersection of more and more people living in these areas, changes in wildfire regimes, and, as we move forward in a warming climate, also increases in the intensity of these extremely heavy downpours. All of these things affect the likelihood that debris flows will cause problems. And one example of a mitigation that, at least as far as we've seen today, looks to be largely successful are these debris flow basins in the known high-risk zones. We didn't used to have them. If you want to know why we have them, that's some good reading for a Thursday night. So I think with that, I'm probably going to close this session. But thank you for joining me. And looks like the weather is going to calm down quite a bit next week. In fact, it looks pretty dry. So everyone who needs to dry out will dry out. There is still major flash flood and debris flow risk overnight in LA County, Western San Bernardino, and Orange counties as this torrential rain continues. I think at this point, the highest risk of new major debris flows and flash flooding is probably on the line and bridge fire footprints, just based on the topography, the intensity of the rainfall we're going to see there, and the propensity of that landscape to produce debris flows even without fires. Once we get through tonight, it's relatively smooth sailing for the next week, and you probably won't see me until next week live because I do have some other things I really need to get done. But thank you for joining. These live storm-centered sessions always seem to be really popular. I continue to encourage folks who show up for these live real-time radar and disaster narrations to also show up for the more regularly scheduled programming in between California disasters. This year, there have been relatively few windows so far in the last few months like that, but I assure you they do occur. Just wait for spring. Spring is usually a calmer time, so I have more ability to talk about other things. Hopefully that will also be the case this year. Certainly, probably we'll see a later start to fire season in Northern California this spring and early summer, so we may get that reprieve with the wet winter that we're having up north. Southern California, a slightly different story, although storms like this one certainly help. Still much drier than average for the season to date, but I think we'll no longer be at record dry for the season to date after this event in most places, which is good. We'll see what comes next, though. There's no major rain on the horizon after this point in Los Angeles, and in some ways, this may be the peakiest rainfall season on record, actually, in some parts of Southern California. In a certain sense, there have been like 2 or 3 storms, and nearly all of the rain has fallen on just 1 or 2 days. In fact, there are probably some places in Southern California where the wettest hour today produced more rainfall than the past 300 calendar days. So, again, this is a part of the world that is accustomed to extremes and high precipitation variability, but that is rather remarkable even by LA standards. I'll be interested to see if there are any statistics that shake out along those lines. So thanks for joining. Please do consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications for when I do these live streams. Sometimes I shift them around or announce them at the last minute. So I would strongly suggest that people subscribe if you like this kind of content or might be interested in the more regularly scheduled content during less active periods. I do think we'll have some of those less active periods coming up again, so this is a good time to sign up and check it out. Some last minute comments that the water level at Sierra Madre is now falling rapidly, which suggests that whatever was going to happen, the worst of it has already happened. So moving forward in that part of the region, it's likely that we've already seen what was going to happen at its peak, and the remaining risk is primarily concentrated farther east in LA County and Western San Bernardino, with the line and bridge fire footprints. And I'll be signing off because I just don't have a lot of intel on the ground in real time to talk about in those places. So thanks for joining me. Stay safe out there. If anyone's caught in traffic, good luck. Don't push it. Just roll with it. Not literally. That's probably not something you want to do when you're driving on the freeway, but if you're stuck in traffic, if there's flooding, drive around it. Take the long way. Get home safely. Talk to you next time.